The story of the boy and the king is a deeply moving and inspiring tale shared by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This powerful narrative conveys themes of faith, resilience, and the victory of truth over tyranny. It has been passed down through generations, offering valuable lessons to all who hear it. The story follows a young boy who, through his unshakable faith and courage, challenges a tyrannical king, ultimately becoming a symbol of divine truth and bravery. In a kingdom ruled by a cruel and oppressive king, there lived a young boy known for his intelligence and curiosity. Eager to learn, he sought knowledge wherever he could find it. His search led him to a wise and devout monk living in seclusion on the outskirts of the kingdom. This monk was renowned for his deep wisdom and unwavering faith in the one true God. Despite the dangers, the boy decided to approach the monk, hoping to gain knowledge from him. Seeing the boy's sincerity and potential, the monk took him under his wing and taught him about true faith and righteousness, stressing the importance of worshipping the one true God. The boy quickly grasped the teachings, learning about prayer, patience, humility, and the strength that comes from steadfast faith. With each passing day, his faith grew stronger, and he began to view the world through a divine lens, understanding the importance of living a righteous life. Over time, their relationship evolved into one of mentor and disciple, built on mutual respect and the pursuit of truth. Meanwhile, the king, who followed a false religion and demanded that his people worship him as a god, became increasingly paranoid about any threats to his authority. He had spies spread across the kingdom, always on the lookout for any signs of rebellion. It wasn't long before word of the monk's teachings reached the king's ears. The thought of a monk spreading a faith that contradicted his own beliefs was intolerable, so he decided to act swiftly. The king ordered his soldiers to capture the monk and silence him. Despite the king's harsh decree, the boy continued to secretly visit the monk, sneaking through hidden paths and dense forests. His determination and bravery were remarkable, and sensing the growing danger, the monk intensified his teachings, imparting as much wisdom as possible. One day, while traveling to visit the monk, the boy encountered a ferocious beast that had been terrorizing the village. The beast was massive, with sharp claws and glowing eyes, scaring everyone away. The boy, however, bravely approached, picked up a stone, and prayed to God for strength. With his faith in the divine, he threw the stone at the beast, and by the grace of God, it fell dead, clearing the way for the villagers. The townspeople, astonished by the miracle, spread news of the boy's bravery throughout the kingdom. Intrigued, the king summoned the boy to his court, eager to learn more about the source of his courage. The boy, knowing the danger he faced, went to the king without fear. Calm and unshaken, he declared his belief in the one true God and credited the miracle to divine intervention. Enraged by the boy's defiance, the king ordered severe punishment. The boy was thrown into a dungeon, his hands and feet shackled. The king hoped that the dark, cold cell would break the boy's spirit, but instead, the boy's faith remained unshaken. In the darkness, he prayed for strength, and his faith became the light that no amount of cruelty could extinguish. Days turned into weeks, and the boy endured starvation, beatings, and intense interrogations. Despite this, he never wavered. His faith remained steadfast, and he continued to pray, drawing strength from his belief in God. Miraculously, each time the king's men tried to break him, the boy emerged unscathed, protected by his unwavering faith and God's mercy. The boy's resilience and the miracles surrounding him began to inspire the people of the kingdom. Whispers of his faith and the power of his God spread through the land, causing many to question the king's authority and the false religion he imposed. Realizing that his power was being undermined, the king grew more determined to crush the boy's spirit. As the boy's influence continued to grow, he became a beacon of hope for the oppressed. His story inspired many to reconsider their beliefs and to challenge the legitimacy of the king's rule. Despite the king's relentless efforts to suppress the boy's influence, the boy stood firm in his faith, and his actions became a symbol of courage for those who longed for freedom from the king's tyranny. The boy's unwavering faith had ignited a spark of hope in the hearts of the people, a hope that the king could not extinguish. As the boy's influence spread, the king's desperation grew. He knew that he had to break the boy's spirit or risk losing control over the kingdom. A final, decisive confrontation between the boy's unyielding faith and the king's oppressive rule was inevitable, and the outcome would determine the future of the kingdom and its people. The king's fury was boundless, unable to tolerate the idea that a mere child could defy his authority and inspire rebellion among the people. The king devised a series of increasingly brutal punishments, hoping to break the boy's spirit once and for all. He ordered the boy to be brought before him, and as the boy stood in the grand, opulent hall of the palace, the king's eyes burned with fury. Yet the boy remained calm, his faith fortifying him with inner strength. The king, determined to crush the boy's resolve through sheer terror, began his cruel series of tortures. First, the boy was tied to a large post in the center of the bustling marketplace, where everyone could witness his suffering. The king commanded his strongest soldiers to whip the boy without mercy. A crowd gathered, drawn by the spectacle, their faces a mix of horror and fascination. With each lash that struck the boy's back, he responded with a prayer on his lips, an unwavering testament to his faith. Despite the searing pain, he did not cry out or beg for mercy. His silence was a powerful declaration of his inner strength. The crowd watched in hushed reverence, their hearts moved by the boy's courage. As the punishment continued, whispers spread through the crowd, admiration for the boy's resilience and wonder about the faith that gave him such strength. Seeing the growing sympathy for the boy, the king grew even more enraged. His plan was backfiring. Instead of breaking the boy's spirit, he was becoming a martyr in the eyes of the people. In a fit of rage, the king ordered the boy to be thrown into a pit filled with wild beasts. The pit was deep, its sides steep and impassable, a place where prisoners were sent to meet a horrific end. As the boy was pushed into the pit and the beasts began to circle him, the king watched with a sinister smile, confident that the boy's faith would finally be shattered. But instead of fear, the boy knelt down and prayed, his calm demeanor in the face of such imminent danger astonishing everyone. Miraculously, the wild animals did not attack. Instead, they lay down peacefully around him, as if a divine presence had soothed their savage instincts. The crowd gasped in awe, their astonishment quickly turning into murmurs of belief in the boy's God. The king, beside himself with rage, realized that his attempts to break the boy's spirit had only amplified his influence. Desperate to regain control, the king concocted an even more diabolical plan. He ordered the boy to be tied to a large stone and cast into the deepest part of the ocean, believing this would surely end the boy's defiance. The soldiers took the boy to the shore, where a large crowd had gathered to witness the grim spectacle. The boy was bound to the stone, and the soldiers began to push it toward the edge of a cliff that overlooked the turbulent sea. As they prepared to throw him into the water, the boy prayed once more, placing his trust in God's hands. As the stone plunged into the water, dragging the boy with it, the crowd held its breath. Moments passed, and just when it seemed certain the boy had met his end, a wave surged, lifting the stone and the boy to the surface. The boy's bindings miraculously loosened, and he was gently carried to the shore by the waves. He emerged from the sea unscathed, his faith once again proving unshakable. The people, witnessing yet another miracle, were filled with awe and reverence. many openly proclaiming their belief in the one true God, inspired by the boy's unwavering faith and the divine intervention that had saved him. The king, watching from the shore, realized his grip on power was slipping away. His subjects no longer feared him. Instead, they were drawn to the boy's God, whose power had been so clearly demonstrated. The king knew he had to act swiftly to regain control. In a final, desperate attempt, he summoned his closest advisors to devise a plan that would eliminate the boy's influence once and for all. In a secret meeting at the palace, the king laid out his plan. Sensing the king's desperation, the advisors proposed a public spectacle that would leave no doubt about the boy's fate. The king ordered a grand arena to be prepared for the execution, to be attended by nobles and common folk alike. The boy would be tied to a stake in the center of the arena, and archers would be instructed to shoot him with arrows. The king believed that such a brutal and public execution would finally break the people's fascination with the boy and restore his own authority. As the day of execution approached, the boy remained calm and composed, his faith stronger than ever. He accepted his fate with grace. On the day of the execution, the arena was filled to capacity, the air thick with anticipation. The boy was brought out, and the crowd fell silent, their eyes fixed on him. Before the execution commenced, the boy, sensing the significance of the moment, addressed the crowd. He told them that his faith had brought him this far, and he was ready to meet his end if it meant that the truth would be revealed. He then advised the king to say, "In the name of the Lord of the boy," before releasing the arrow. Reluctantly, the king followed the boy's instructions, desperate to see him dead. As the arrow was loosed and struck the boy, he fell to the ground. The crowd remained silent for a moment, and then a collective gasp rose as they realized what had happened. The boy had sacrificed himself, but in doing so, he had achieved something profound. Moved by his sacrifice and the invocation of the true God's name, the people began to openly declare their faith. They proclaimed their belief in the one true God, and the king's power was irrevocably shattered. In his death, the boy had achieved a monumental victory. His unwavering faith and ultimate sacrifice had led to the enlightenment and liberation of an entire kingdom. Defeated and powerless, the king watched as his subjects turned away from him and embraced the faith that the boy had so valiantly defended. The boy's legacy lived on, inspiring countless individuals to stand firm in their beliefs and find strength in their faith. His story became a symbol of divine truth and the triumph of faith over tyranny. The kingdom, once ruled by fear and oppression, was transformed by the light of faith and belief. All thanks to the courage and sacrifice of a young boy who never wavered in his devotion to the one true God. The king's desperation reached its peak. He could no longer tolerate the boy's defiance and the growing rebellion among his people. The boy's unwavering faith and the miracles surrounding him had not only threatened the king's authority, but also ignited a spark of hope among the oppressed citizens. The king knew he had to take drastic measures to restore his rule and eliminate the boy once and for all. After consulting with his advisors, the king devised a final cruel plan to break the boy's spirit and crush the burgeoning rebellion. He ordered his soldiers to bring the boy to the palace once more, with the intention that this time the boy would not survive. The king decided that the boy would be thrown from the highest cliff in the kingdom, a place known for its treacherous rocks and violent waves below. The fall would surely be fatal, and the public execution would serve as a dire warning to anyone who dared defy him. The boy was taken to the cliff, surrounded by a heavy guard, while the townspeople, having heard of the king's plans, gathered at the foot of the cliff. Their hearts were heavy with fear and sorrow, knowing this could be the boy's final moment. They watched in silence as the boy was led to the edge of the cliff, his hands bound and his face serene. The king, standing at the precipice, looked down at the crowd below before turning his gaze to the boy. "Do you still cling to your faith?" The king sneered, hoping to see fear in the boy's eyes. But the boy met his gaze, calm and unwavering. "My faith is stronger than ever," the boy replied, his voice steady and resolute. "You may take my life, but you cannot take the truth from the hearts of the people." The king's face twisted with fury, and with a signal to his soldiers, they pushed the boy over the edge. The crowd gasped in horror as the boy's body tumbled toward the jagged rocks below. Many turned away, unable to watch the tragic scene unfold. But as the boy fell, he prayed, placing his trust entirely in God's hands. In that moment, a miraculous gust of wind caught the boy, slowing his descent and gently carrying him toward the ground. He landed safely, unharmed by the fall. The crowd, witnessing this incredible event, erupted in cheers and praises for the boy's God. The king, watching from above, was struck with a mix of fear and disbelief. His plan had failed spectacularly, and the boy's survival only served to strengthen the people's faith. Realizing that his power was slipping away, the king grew more desperate than ever. Determined not to be defeated, he ordered the boy to be brought back to the palace. This time the king would personally oversee the execution, ensuring there would be no miraculous escape. He commanded his soldiers to prepare a large bonfire in the palace courtyard. The boy would be tied to a stake and burned alive in a public spectacle meant to finally break the spirit of the people. The boy was brought to the courtyard where the massive pyre had been constructed. The flames roared, casting a hellish glow over the gathered crowd. The king addressed his subjects, proclaiming that this was the fate that awaited all who defied his rule. But the boy remained calm, his faith unshaken even in the face of such a gruesome end. As the soldiers tied him to the stake, the boy prayed silently, asking God for strength. The flames began to rise, licking at the wood, inching closer to the boy. The heat was intense, and the crowd watched in horror, many of them praying for a miracle. Just as the flames seemed about to engulf the boy, a sudden downpour began. The rain fell in torrents, extinguishing the fire almost instantly. The boy stood unharmed, the stake wet and charred but intact. The people, once again witnessing a miraculous event, fell to their knees, praising the boy's God and declaring their faith openly. The king, drenched and humiliated, stood at a loss. Every attempt to break the boy had only served to strengthen the people's faith. In a final act of desperation, the king devised the ultimate test. He ordered that the boy be tied to a stake and shot with arrows, believing this method would leave no room for miraculous escape. The boy was brought to the palace once more, and the king's archers prepared their bows. The people gathered, their hearts heavy but filled with reverence for the boy's courage and faith. Before the execution began, the boy, sensing the significance of the moment, addressed the crowd once more. "I accept my fate," he said, his voice strong and clear. "But know this, my death will not be in vain. My faith is a testament to the one true God, and my sacrifice will inspire you to stand up for what is right." Eager to see the boy's end, the king ordered the archers to aim. Then he reluctantly followed the boy's instructions, telling them to say, "In the name of the Lord of the boy," before releasing the arrows. The archers released their arrows, and one struck the boy. He fell to the ground, succumbing to his injuries. For a moment the crowd was silent, the weight of the boy's sacrifice hanging heavy in the air. Then, as if moved by a collective realization, the people began to declare their faith in the one true God. Inspired by the boy's unwavering belief and ultimate sacrifice, they openly embraced the faith that had been so valiantly defended. The king, witnessing the outpouring of faith and the collapse of his authority, knew that he had been defeated. The boy's death had only served to strengthen the people's resolve. His spirit broken, the king retreated to his palace, his power irreversibly shattered. In the aftermath of the boy's sacrifice, the kingdom underwent a profound transformation. The people, inspired by the boy's courage and faith, began to openly practice the true faith. The boy's story spread far and wide, becoming a symbol of divine truth and the triumph of faith over tyranny. His legacy lived on, inspiring countless generations to stand up for their beliefs and find strength in their faith. The kingdom, once ruled by fear and oppression, was transformed by the light of faith and the power of belief. The boy's courage and sacrifice had liberated the people, showing them that truth and faith were more powerful than any tyrant's rule. The story of the boy and the king continues to inspire countless individuals, reminding them of the enduring strength of faith and the power of standing up for what is right.